Wales Coast Path is about the intertidal space of the future. So it's about how we connect with land and water and the relationship between those two things, and how that might change over time, and how we might need to change to adapt to that. So the project starts with a lighthouse, but the lighthouse sits on what might be the future coastline, and it's intended as a point of convergence, a point of meeting, where people might then take a walk from that place to the current shoreline, and through that walk perhaps start to understand the landscape in a deeper way than they have done previously. Where the lighthouses are is the possible shoreline of the future, according to the different tidal models that have been produced. So this project isn't about saying this land is going to flood in the imminent future, it's just about saying we need to talk about how the landscape is changing and how we might need to change with it. So we have a lighthouse here on Mega Marsh, which is kind of in the centre of the Gwent Levels, and this is actually the lowest point on the levels as well. And then we've got a lighthouse at Newport at the riverfront. We've been walking with the local community from the lighthouse to the current shoreline, and we've been creating maps and documents and taking photos and just starting to look more deeply at the landscape and people's responses to it. And we've been asking people questions like, where does the sea begin? And we're getting lots of really interesting responses to those.
Okay, Sam, we're all right.
So as part of this project, we're also working with a community in India, in the Sundarbans, where we've got a group of artists who have been going and doing workshops there. And this connection has really come about because I wanted this to be a global project, because sea level rise and adaptation is not a local thing, it's a global thing. And I wanted to explore how people in other places are adapting and changing as sea levels rise there. And Sundarbans is very much the front line of climate change in the world. But actually the landscape in some ways is similar to what we have here on the Gwent Levels. So we've set up an exchange where participants in India will send gifts to participants in Wales, who will then send gifts back. And we have that exchange happening over 6 weeks. The lighthouse connects the tidal data from a buoy in the Bay of Bengal. So when the tide is rising in the Bay of Bengal, the light will start to flash. And what we've found that is really interesting is that when the tide is rising in Bengal, it's also rising in the Severn Estuary. So we're actually tidal twins. So this lighthouse won't be here forever, but also this place won't be here forever. So as an artist, I want to be able to hand over to other people to think about what next. So there's an inscription on the lighthouse that says, there are no instructions. What happens next is up to all of us. And that's really the message of the project, is that it's up to all of us how the future looks.